This program is brought to you by the Genesis Communications Network, a world leader in talk radio since 1998. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Broadcasting and streaming live all across America. This is Home Talk USA with Michael King, where we will discuss topics pertaining to your home with industry-leading experts. Michael King is a licensed general contractor with more than 30 years of experience in home improvements and the author of Contracting with the King. Join us this hour for our segment Invent America with your co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton. Discover what's next in the home improvement industry and explore new products and innovations. Or if you have that next great big idea, learn what it takes to bring your invention to the world. As Michael King and Rita Crompton talk to America's inventors and innovators. Remember, the America of tomorrow is being invented today. We invite you to visit us at HomeTalkUSA.com, one of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, we proudly present Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country, Home Talk USA, with your host, the Cajun contractor, Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
Yay! Welcome, America! That's right. Along with my co-host, my sidekick, the Inventor Lady herself, Miss Rita Crompton. We want to welcome all of you, fresh off a beautiful Easter weekend special. Easter weekend, the birth of our Lord Savior Jesus Christ, the death, the tribulations, and for all your Christians out there to be born again, it's just a great time to accept the blood of Christ and to feel different. That hey, it's just a great time, and we love it, and we hope all of you had a beautiful, beautiful weekend. I know I did. As all my grandbabies are not grandbabies anymore; they're up there in age, but we had a great time. Now I'd like to bring my co-host, Rita. Hey, Rita, how was your Easter weekend?
We had a wonderful time. It was great to be with family and, be so grateful that we're in a good place and lots of friends and lots of love, and we celebrated.
Well, the difference over here is that, I'm in a closed-in fence, so my people can't go anywhere. But unfortunately, I think, based on what you told me, that you could actually get lost for days where you live out in the mountains if you try to hide some eggs out there, right?
Yeah, you might have to fight the bears for those eggs. That is not a place where you want to be hiding eggs, yeah.
Well, what has happened since last week and this week? Hey, we did a Easter weekend special. Everybody thought we were going to take off that last weekend, but we didn't. We broadcast, and it was a great show. We had some good ratings. But so tell us what the show will be about this weekend. Well, this week.
Okay, so what we're talking about now, and I try to mix it up. So we've got some, really fun topics, and then we've got the more serious inventing topics. So this is one of those more fun topics of, that first prototype. I always tell the inventors when they call me, it's like, do as much looking around as you can, and then build your own version of the first prototype. We always laughed and said it was made out of duct tape and cardboard, but I've seen some really good ones made out of Legos, seen some very practical ones made out of pipe cleaners or Play-Doh, whatever you've got sitting around the house that you can, pull out and make something that's three-dimensional. And so that's what we're going to talk to some inventors that are in the marketplace. They're very successful with their products. Well, what did their first prototypes look like?
Wow. And talk about our three guests you have.
All right, so our three guests, the first one is Warren Ignacio out of the Northeast, the Boston metro area. And our next guest then is Wayne Osterholm. He is out of the Pittsburgh area, and his product is a business-to-business, very high-tech type of safety product. And then I'm so excited to introduce to you our expert today. He is one of the first sponsors of Invent America.
Wow. So we got somebody that's going to step up to the plate, huh?
We do. We do. And so we are going to have him on. And Scott is that early stage prototype guide that the inventors would go to say, all right, now this is what I've got, my duct tape and cardboard version. Scott, I need the sexy prototype now. And Scott's going to say, okay, this is what we do.
Well, that's what I like about the diversity of what we do here. At the end of the day, what we try to do is just set that blueprint to success, and to try to walk these inventors through the different stages, so they can be successful. Because it would be a crime to have a great technology idea that can never get to the market. Can you imagine?
It would be.
Can you imagine? When, like I said, when they,
it's just, I understand what you're saying, and it's so hard when I see inventors come to me and they've got something that sounds like it would have been a really good idea, and they've made mistakes because they didn't know the basics, or they jumped the gun, or they wasted all their money on something else. When I get an inventor that says, well, I spent $50,000 on my patent, it's like, you needed a different patent attorney. Yeah. Because really, more is not always better. It just means they're driving a nicer car.
Yep, that's right.
And so, when we look at, here's the steps, here's the flow of the pricing. And, an inventor can go to my website, inventorlady.com, download the Inventor's Galaxy Guide. It's going to go through the 7 steps of the inventing process. And it helps them understand, those price points so they can plan better and do better. And so, it's just like next week we're talking about money and investors, because I get inventors, I'll get an investor. And it's like, so that is going to be a hot topic for sure. Yeah. And this morning I had an email from a gentleman that heard our broadcast about the fishing pole. And he wanted the website from the fishing pole guys. And so I responded back to him right away, and I said, here's their website. So, give them a call. Reach out to them.
Another thing is to determine whether or not they would be a good candidate, say, for a license deal, or would they be a good candidate to manufacture themselves. There's a decision you have to make, and we want to help them guiding that way, because I have a rule of thumb. If you're just going to be a one-trick pony, then you need to look at that licensing deal. And that's a whole different show. That's a whole different criteria, licensing deals, It
is. And I've heard over and over again, and I think it was the fishing pole guys, the Perfect Caster, where I met them in a meeting, and they said, we felt like, the lone Cheerio in, a bowl of milk. We were just floating around trying to find out the right information. And a lot of inventors feel like they're all alone out there. They don't know where to go for the right information. They feel like they're being, just kind of stalked by the predators. And so Invent America is laid out to protect them from, the bad guys out there that just want to take advantage of them. It's where can they go for that good, solid information that doesn't take anything more than their interest and their time.
Yep. Well, Rita, we got a great show for people, and then at the end of the show, we got some breaking news. We always have breaking news every week, and then we're also going to talk about how, if you're listening to the show, how you can, if you have that great idea, and to get on the show and make it easy for them, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But again, it's always that information is always education information is always where it's at.
Yeah,
and that's what we try to do here. Yeah.
And everything is on the inventorlady.com. And for the folks that would like a call-in version of this, they can go to the Inventor Roundtable meetings. We have 2 free meetings a month, and it's just a matter of logging in, and then they can ask the questions. Yeah. So they can talk to then the experts and the other inventors. Right. And our meetings have been coast-to-coast attendees. It's been wonderful.
All right, there's the music. Got to step away. You're listening to the Invent America show here on the Home Improvement Broadcasting Network, on the Home Talk USA radio network. Also, right here, the Inventor Lady herself, Rita Crompton. I am the Cajun contractor, Michael King, the originator. Not the duplicator. Please don't accept no substitutions. Man, I was green before green was even cool. I'm the Cajun man. I'll be right back. Yay!
USA with Michael King. Do you have questions about your next home improvement project or home repairs? Now you can chat with verified home repair and home improvement experts in just minutes. Get the help you need by visiting HometalkUSA.com. One of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HometalkUSA.com. And now, back to Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country. Home Talk USA with your host, the Cajun contractor Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
All right, welcome back to the only home improvement show dedicated to you, the American consumer. I want to welcome all of you to the Invent America show, which is a segment of Home Talk USA Home Improvement Show, along with my guests, also my sidekick, my co-host, Rita Crompton, the Inventor Lady, as we help educate and help all of your inventors out there. Rita, who's our next guest?
Our guest is Warren Ignacio. He is the owner, inventor, and owner of WEI Angle Surface Bracket. And the cool thing about Warren is he was an entrepreneur all of his life, worked in the family-owned drywall and general contracting business. He's out of the Boston metro area. And so he had a lot of experience in the arena that he invented in, which is wonderful. Warren, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Rita and Mike. It's my pleasure to be on your show. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, we are glad to have you. So tell us a little bit about your product so people will know what you're talking about.
Rita, my product is something that I designed and invented after all my years of growing up in the construction field and family drywall business. I always saw the sloped surfaces and ceilings that were in second floors, attics, and in closets. And you could only take and buy a right-angle rod and shelf bracket that went on a vertical wall. So it was fine if you had a 7'6" closet with a flat ceiling on the top. But a lot of these homes that had angled ceilings in the closets, you could only put 2 cleats on each side of the closet and put cup holders and put 1 rod in. So I invented the angle surface bracket, which has 25 adjustments in a telescoping tube that you can use in the closets. A lot of my customers are using them in what I like calling a creative closet. And that's making a closet in a bedroom that you have 2 rods and a shelf. So I solved the problem, and it's in the bedroom. You put your shelf, you put pictures on the top or shoes, and you made a closet for inexpensive money. And so I like to look at it that I solved the problem that's existed there since slope ceilings were designed for houses.
And that's great. And Warren is manufacturing and selling products. So if you think that you would like one of these, we're going to give you his website here in just a few minutes. But Warren, in the beginning, after you had your wow moment, how did you do your first prototype? Because we always like to think, duct tape, cardboard, Legos, whatever you got handy, just to get the idea out of your head. What did you do?
Well, it's yes, we all start out with prototypes. But I want to say that, that wow moment came when I was laying in bed one morning and looked at that slope ceiling. And I guess the first prototype is all starts in your mind. Gee whiz, what am I going to have to do to make a prototype? A lot of thinking went into it. And because of the ceiling and because of so many different angles of roofs and homes, it had to be something that was adjustable. And so I want to think that the prototype process started laying in bed trying to think of these things. It's like you just can't make something that the shelf is going to be at an angle. And I want to have something that if we're going to use that wasted space. Let's try and make it so it has a double hook, so we can double a hang capacity. And so after, thinking about it, 2 or 3 mornings, it started going down on paper. And I started drawing and sketching up and folding pieces of paper that were to scale with numbers, measurements, everything on it, because that's all your prototype. If you don't write everything down, you don't have anything to go back to. You just can't, like the mornings of laying there,
Yeah, that's good. That's good information, to our listeners. That you go through stages of your prototyping from your mind to the paper to actually something that's 3-dimensional. So, in the scheme of things, now when you look at it, how many prototypes do you think you actually went through before you were ready to get then that first kind of pre-manufactured one?
I went through probably 8-9 different ones, from folding that paper and changing design along the way. From a square tube that if you put another square tube into a square tube, you can get that. They can go up and down. And then I needed something to. All right, when it does that, how are you going to hold it in place? What type of buttons that I want to use? And, from there, I went from a single row of holes, finding out that a single row of holes really limited the amount of adjustments I could make. And so we added a second row of holes that were opposite on the other side. Now I created a 13-hole original pattern to a 25-hole adjustable pattern,
right,
which gave me more measurements.
I think a lot of inventors learn as they go through the different steps and how to make it better, and that's right. The goal.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway. So we went from paper to cardboard to thin metal to presenting drawings to a fabrication shop. All
right, we got to run. Hey, Warren, give us that website. How can we learn more about the Angle Surface Bracket?
You can visit my website at anglesurfacebracket.com, and that will show you my rod and shelf bracket. And January of 2023, we introduced a TV mountain bracket also. All right. And they'll be able to see that on the website.
All right, good. We're up against the clock. AngleSurfaceBracket.com. Just spell it out. All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to have another guest, another topic right here on the Invent America radio program, along with my co-host, the Inventor Lady herself, Rita Crompton. We'll be right back. Yay!
To Home Talk USA with Michael King. Do you have questions about your next home improvement project or home repairs? Now you can chat with verified home repair and home improvement experts in just minutes. Get the help you need by visiting HomeTalkUSA.com. One of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, back to Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country, Home Talk USA, with your host, the Cajun contractor Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
All right, welcome back to the only home improvement show dedicated to you, the American consumer. Hey, don't forget to go on our website at HomeTalkUSA.com. You can catch our television show up there right now. It's episode 27 with Matthew DeGrand with Aztec Washers. You can catch this week's episode. So, hey, great. It's about roofing, components, roofing solutions. Matthew DeGrand, the Aztec Washer Company. All right, we're along with my co-host right now, Miss Rita Crompton. I think we have, who's our next guest?
Our next guest is Mr. Wayne Osterholm. He's a veteran of the U.S. Navy, had decades of experiences in the applied environmental health sciences, which, get this, included pandemic and bioterrorism planning for local and state governments. So that is a mouthful. Wayne, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on, Rita.
So tell everybody a little bit about what you invented, and this is different than what we've normally had on because you're business to business, and it's a cleaning disinfectant that will reduce lower costs, less plastics and harmful chemicals in our environment. But I want you to kind of tell everybody what it is.
Well, what it is a patented product, and it stems literally from my background. And when COVID hit, I had this novel idea of CUPOD. So what it does is it works much like a Keurig machine, and the pods, in this case, is a chemical. The chemical that's inside of it is controlled through electrolysis. And each pod, which would fit in the size of your hand, can be put into a machine that will generate up to 2 gallons of cleaning, disinfectant, sanitizing solution that's already FDA approved. And what it's producing is chlorine dioxide gas. Chlorine dioxide gas is already currently FDA approved and already used in industry, especially in the food service industry, for washing fruits and vegetables, bleaching flour, sanitizing meat facilities, so on and so forth. So CUPOD is novel, unique, and for the first time in the market. In the markets that we're going to initially are going to be for restaurants and hospitals. But there's further applications with it to move on into veterinary science, medical, even DOD applications. But for right now, that's the direction we are going.
So, and while your product is not a consumer-based product, I'm not going to be running out and buying some. You've made it. The issue we're talking about today is that prototyping, those early stages. We laugh about, Legos being a really good way to come up with that three-dimensional first prototype. What did you do? I mean, this is a complicated issue. What did you do for first prototypes? It's not like you went out and bought a Keurig machine, I'm guessing.
No. Well, the funny thing is, even though I have a background in the environmental health sciences and had all that planning, it was about 13 years ago, I walked away and became a fine art restorer. And I was looking to get my MPH, but I went a different direction and studied fine art conservation. So from 10 years ago up till currently, I was doing private art conservation. And lo and behold, I constantly work with this thing called chlorine dioxide gas for fine art restoration. So when COVID hit, how this process of prototyping occurred is I had a lab, I had the capability, so I had to make a proof of concept first. Will this work? What's the parameters? What are the specifics? So I was very fortunate enough to have the capabilities in my own lab to produce my first proof of concept and thus to move on into prototyping. So that first proof of concept took me about 3 months. And it was difficult. It was difficult.
And I think that's an important thing for our listeners to kind of grasp onto is that everybody's got a different skill set. So while, somebody comes up with their aha moment and they think, I can go out and I can buy these 4 or 5 things on a Walmart shelf or at a Home Depot and make my own version of it. Others, like yourself, and I've certainly heard from other inventors who have got, a very unique skill set, and what you come up with, then you're able to use your lab or your background to come up with that prototype. And different inventors have different skill sets.
Absolutely. And for me, moving on to that different direction, evolving into the prototyping stage from there, once you had the proof of concept, now I had to, and I did utilize 3D printers. How will this look? How will it function? Look at how will it look in the market? Cost effectiveness. The proof of concept in the end result of 3D printing. How does that look in manufacturing? So your designs change through this process. And even though, like right now, I have 2 different type designs for 2 different types of markets, I am continually prototyping future designs and future concepts. So in the prototyping stage, to me, it just seems like it never ends.
I was just going to say, well, how long did it take you to get through that prototype stage? And you're telling us never.
It seems like it's always like an evolution, and I have another friend who is in the market too of a product, and we were just talking about that very subject, and he's even redesigned kind of like an evolution, doing more prototype. How will this look differently? And it's like I said, I guess never stop reinventing.
Yeah, and that's really good advice for our inventors out there, because the products that we see that kind of stay alive and run the course of the patent are the ones that are constantly evolving as technology changes or as the market shifts a little bit. We've had one out there that was a very simple, the disposal genie. She was on a few weeks ago, and her product, even though it's been in the marketplace 15 years, they're constantly redesigning it to make it a little better. That's
definitely someone to follow, and I would like to learn a little bit more about her process. I could probably, she probably could help me out rather than me reinventing the wheel, so to speak.
Probably. So anyway, thank you so much for being with us. I'm sure that if anybody wants to read more about it, give them your website.
Well, I appreciate it, Rita, and thank you guys so much for what you're doing and the opportunity to be on your show. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Give us your website.
All right.
CUPODLLC.com. Thank you so much.
All right, Rita, you got it all in?
I did. I was talking as fast as I could.
All right, you got it. All right, we're going to take a short break. We come back with another guest, another topic right here on Home Talk USA. This is the Invent America radio program here on the Genesis Communication Radio Network at GCNlive.com. I'll be right back.
USA with Michael King. Do you have questions about your next home improvement project or home repairs? Now you can chat with verified home repair and home improvement experts in just minutes. Get the help you need by visiting HomeTalkUSA.com. One of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com. And now, back to Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country, Home Talk USA, with your host, the Cajun contractor Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
All right, welcome back to the only home improvement show dedicated to you, the American consumer. We do have a programming note. Mr. Scott Tarsi, president of CAD Design Help, was supposed to be our guest. Unfortunately, we couldn't get him on due to technical issues, but we're going to get him on in the near future. So stay tuned for Scott Tarsi with CAD Design Help. It happens in the wonderful world of radio. But hey, Rita, so let's talk about your company, the Invent America, the Inventor Lady show, your website, who you are. We have some new affiliates that are tuning in, might not be familiar with the Inventor Lady. Tell them about your story and a little bit about what you do.
All right, I would love to. Well, Inventor Lady, kind of got her beginnings about 17 years ago, and I met some really good, literally ex-rocket scientists who kind of took me under their arm and taught me about that inventing arena and about the intellectual property, and they really mentored me over the years, and then I got to the point where I was helping them, and it was wonderful. And a lot of the things that we learned, we've applied now to Inventor Lady, whereas going out after a licensing deal, if we can get inventors to do it better sooner rather than later and really save their money, they have a much better chance at success later on. And so that's what we really try to focus on is the right steps. And so the Inventors Roundtable is where we are able to get the call-in version of Home Talk and of Invent America, where the inventors can go and sign in and they can visit with each other. And for a lot of my inventors, they will say that's the most valuable thing that they get is the ability to talk to other inventors around the country. And so we'll have inventors, Michael, from Florida to Washington State and Canada and California and all over. But learning those steps sooner rather than later, we can save them money. We can save them, the indigestion that they get from worrying about stuff, help them work through the prototype stage. The program today was about, prototyping. And Scott is the next person you go to after you've done your own versions, because he's going to help do that, what we call the sexy prototype or the proof of concept. And he's not the manufacturer's prototype. That's another step. And so when I get inventors that say, I've got like a museum of prototypes, it's not unusual. And my job is to help inventors make sure that they understand all those steps, because we don't charge anything up front when we're acting as a licensing agent. And so we're, very, very good at saying, here's your options, here's your next step. And so the Inventors Roundtable and Invent America, the radio show, and my website, and directing inventors to different groups they can join in the metropolitan areas. Those are the good resources, because there are plenty of scoundrels out there. You know that.
Well, you're right, and so it's kind of like laying that blueprint from start to finish, from the idea stage to get it on a piece of paper, and then eventually try to get that prototype, right?
Exactly. Getting it out of your head. And, we laughed about some of those early stage prototypes, but the two guests that were on today were exactly right. How they lay awake and then they kind of draw it out. Some people are better at drawing than others. And I've seen, some of the inventors, like they'll get some Play-Doh up there and they'll start molding it and doing it the way they can and saying, okay, it needs to be this big, or the door needs to open this way. And those early stage prototypes help teach inventors a lot of different parts of the process. And so that's what we try to do, is to help get them licensed, because the licensee they're going to do the heavy lifting. So the inventor goes with, they may have produced some and sold some, but now we want to get them teed up. The licensee does the manufacturing and the marketing, and they will help any infringements with the intellectual property, and they pay for the product liability insurance. So the inventor gets to go and make a deposit in the bank with a royalty check instead of always taking money out of the bank to pay for something new they weren't expecting. And so when inventors say, I don't have $500,000 to do this, it's like, well, it's nice to know early so we can go after licensing sooner rather than later.
Well, that's a good point. It's trying to get money in the checking account, not get money outside, leaving the checking account. I like that,
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing this now?
17 years now.
Wow. Well, that's why we want to help young inventors and walk them through the steps. But all right, we're going to take a short break. We got to pay some bills here on the Home Improvement Broadcasting Network. You're listening to the Invent America show right here on the Genesis Communication Radio Network at GCNlive.com. Thank you.
USA with Michael King. Do you have questions about your next home improvement project or home repairs? Now you can chat with verified home repair and home improvement experts in just minutes. Get the help you need by visiting HometalkUSA.com. One of the best resources for home improvement information around today. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HometalkUSA.com. And now, back to Invent America from the #1 home improvement radio program in the country. Home Talk USA with your host, the Cajun contractor Michael King, and his co-host, the Inventor Lady, Rita Crompton.
Yeah, I'm often asked, there's no place like Home Talk. Well, as you know, our executive producer, Mr. Michael St. Anthony, is a Judy Garland Wizard of Oz family. Just to answer Babe's tweet, how did y'all come up with that slogan? It's because there's no place like home. So we just had no place like Home Talk. So that's a big shout out to our executive producer who's really been up there to Minnesota, been up there to Julie Garland's house. He's a really so Brita, I thought I'd just mention that. You know, everybody always wondered, how do you get that little slogan? That's what it came from. Yep.
There you go. Yep.
Well, Rita, we're out of time right now, man. I tell you what, it's always a great show. And tell us a little bit about your website. How can we get you?
InventorLady.com. It is easy to find and easy to use, all on a new platform now. So it's nice and fast, and you can go in there and see all of the information you need about Invent America, Inventor Lady, and getting a new product to the marketplace.
Yeah. All right, we got to go. Up against the clock. Thank you so much.
Home Talk USA with Michael King is produced by Home Talk Media in association with King's Broadcasting Network and Genesis Communications Network. Broadcast and streamed live from the great state of Louisiana. Host and producer, the Cajun contractor, Michael King. Executive producer, Michael Mellinson. Affiliate and sponsor relations, Joe Spera. Comptroller, Sheila Gregoire. Assistant producer, Christian Bethencourt. Board operators provided by Genesis Communications Network. And I'm your announcer, Kevin McCarthy. Music includes King's Creole by Prolific Arts, Cajun Jam by StockMusic.com, and Zydeco City by Steve Rice. Home Talk USA with Michael King is sponsored by Bonide, pest solutions for your home, garden, and lawn. Decorators, take outdoor living beyond ordinary. Aztec Washer, innovative roofing solutions. Seal it right, seal it tight. Trimislab, replace rotten or missing wood with Trimislab expansion joint repair. Masonry Cosmetics, change the color of any porous masonry with proven masonry staining. Green Products Company, #1 in wood preservatives. Preserve, protect, and clean what you value, and most of all, make it last. Bond Products, manufacturers of InstaBind, the world's first do-it-yourself carpet binding solution. Deckrite, life is tough. Make your exterior flooring tougher. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Home Talk USA with Michael King. Until next time, visit us at HomeTalkUSA.com. Your best life begins with your best home, and there's no place like Home Talk. That's HomeTalkUSA.com.
Yeah.